So welcome back to the Microsoft Student Accelerator Introduction to Web Development tutorial. This section will be focusing on JavaScript. So what is JavaScript? JavaScript is a high-level programming and scripting language that allows you to implement complex features on web pages. It is the JavaScript code that allows for elements on web pages to move and change dynamically. In this tutorial, we'll be teaching you some basic programming concepts like what is a variable, operator, loops, arrays, and functions, and what they do. These are not limited to just JavaScript, and they can be applied to other high-level programming languages like Python, Java, etc. But we will be teaching you the syntax of the code in JavaScript. So a variable are just names for storage locations, and a variable can only store one value at any given time, and it stores a value using the equal sign, which is the assignment operator. In this example shown below, the value of 1 is stored into the variable called some variable. What was shown before was an integer data type being stored in a variable, but there are multiple different types of data types. So we have here 4 different primitive data types, which are integers, floats, strings, and booleans. Integers are whole numbers. So as an example, they can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100, 233. That is what an integer is. A floating point data type is any number with a decimal in it. So 1.1, 3.14, 20.32, 60.3. Those are all floating points. Strings are a sequence of characters like hello, world, love. They can also be comprised of a sentence. As we can see in the string variable example, it can be multiple words like I love you, or it could be the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It is a sequence of successive characters. We also have the Boolean data type, which is a simple true or false. These are the arithmetic operators of JavaScript. We have equals, plus, minus, asterisk, forward slash, and the percentage sign. So the equal sign, which is the assignment operator, like we have previously seen, we are able to assign values to a variable. With the plus operator, we're able to do addition arithmetic, which is like 1 plus 1 equals to 2, 3 plus 2 equals to 5, or 1,000 plus 1,000 equals 2,000. Or we are able to concatenate 2 or 3 or more strings together. The minus operator allows you to perform simple subtraction arithmetic, like 1 minus 1 equals 0, 5 minus 3 equals to 2. The multiplication operator allows you to perform simple multiplication arithmetic, like 3 times 1 equals to 3, 3 times 4 equals to 12, 6 times 6 equals to 36. An array is used to store multiple values in a single variable. Each entry in the array is referenced using an index which starts from 0. So in this example, value 1 has an index of 0, value 2 has an index of 1, and value 3 has an index of 2. Loops are used to implement repetition in a block of code, and today we'll be learning about 2 loops, while loops, and for loops. A while loop consists of 4 components: the counter initialization, the terminating condition, the block of code that we want to have executed repeatedly, and a counter increment. We require a terminating condition, or the program will not know when to stop the loop and it will run on forever. So in our example, our terminating condition is the counter variable must be less than 10, or the while loop will stop. Similarly, we need an increment because if the counter value does not increase, it will always stay at 0 and the block of code will run forever. A for loop is like a simplified while loop. It consists of the same number of components, which is the initialization, the condition, the block of code that we want run repeatedly, and the increment. And they are mostly written on the same line, so it is displayed neatly. Similar to the while loop that we had displayed before, The counter variable has been initialized to 0, and the terminating condition for the loop is when the counter has reached greater than 10, and the increment is incremented by 1 every time. A JavaScript function is a block of code to perform a particular task. It is so that we can reuse code so that we do not need to write the same code block over and over again. A function is defined using the function keyword, and we must name the function. In this case, the function is named many hellos. There is an input parameter, which is the information the function is given when it is invoked elsewhere. Our code block is similar to our while loop from before, but depending on the input parameter number of the program, it will print that many number of hellos. We have called the function twice, using 10 and 20 as the input parameters, so the program in total prints 30 hellos. We're able to call the function as many times as we want, and as you can see, it performs the same action without us having to write the entire while loop every time. So now that we've learned all these programming concepts, we will hopefully implement them all together to make our boring web page look a little bit more dynamic. So to make our memes metro web page a little bit more dynamic, we'll be implementing 2 buttons which the user can click to change the overall theme of the website into dark mode and randomize the photos that are displayed. So as shown, it will change the theme of the website to dark mode on the toggle theme button, and also when you press randomize, it will show you a set of random memes instead. So to get started, we need to create 2 buttons, one toggle theme button and one randomize button. So the first button, which is the toggle theme button, is placed right underneath the navigation bar, but it still belongs to the header element. And we want to center this button. So how we want to do this is we want to create a paragraph tag, which uses the same styling as our center text. So what this will do, it will look into the CSS to look for the styling, which will then center the button into the middle of the page. So the class name is center underscore text. And we close this for this paragraph tag, and then we want to create a button. So there is a button tag for HTML, and the content that you place within it is what text will appear within the button. So in this case, we need it to be toggle theme. So when we save this and we refresh the page, the button will appear right in the center here. And we need to do this for our randomize button as well. So what we can do is we'll place the copy and paste this right underneath the memes collection section. Make sure we have the right tabbing, and we need to change the content of the button, which is randomize. And we can save this, and we will refresh this page as well, and the randomize button and the toggle theme button are now put in place, but they don't do anything yet because it has not been coded up yet. So in order for these 2 buttons to work, we need to implement some JavaScript that we just learned. And what you need to do is to download all of the meme images that we have uploaded onto GitHub and place them into the assets folder and assets images folder so that we're able to refer to them. We have 7 top tier quality memes. So first we need to implement some of the JavaScript. Inside of the head tag, we want to open up a tag called script, which refers to JavaScript, of course. And we want to implement the randomize feature of the web page. So we want to make a function called randomize image. So that is the name of the function, and we'll have 2 parameters called ID and ID2. So these are our 2 parameters which we can then use to manipulate, and we'll define the content of this function within some squiggly brackets. So in here, so what we first want to do is to define a variable. The first variable is the images array, and what that has is an array of all of the names of the memes that we have. So we'll have Alice, Old Rogers, Pepe, Simpsons, Smart Spider-Man, and Y. They will also have their respective file type extensions on the end. So how we do this is we define the array, define the variable with the var keyword, and we give it the name of images array. We will assign it an array using the equals operator. And to define an array, we need square brackets. And for all the names of the memes, we will use quotations to indicate that as a string. So the first of all the images that we have is else.png, and that is the first element in our array, and our second element will be segregated using a comma, and we will define the name also in quotations as Old Rogers dot JPEG, and then another element is Simpsons. I need quotations, so Simpsons dot PNG. The next one is Spider-Man dot PNG. The one after that is Y. Need quotations again. Y dot PNG. And we have beautiful Pepe dot. This is a JPEG file, and the one after this is, keep on forgetting quotations, so smart dot JPEG. So now we have defined the array with seven different elements. It's important to get the names right and also the file extension right, or whenever you press the randomize button, sometimes the images won't appear because it doesn't know where to look for the image. So something else that this function needs to do is that it needs to generate two random indexes so that it will reference the array content that we just created. So because we have 7 elements in our array, remember the indexing of an array starts from 0. So because we have 7 elements in our array, it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to generate a random index from 0 to 6 so we can effectively reference the elements in our array that we have just created. So we will create the first index called random index. So to generate a random number, we will be using the math.random function from JavaScript. So what math.random does is that it generates a random number from 0 to 1, and this can be floating points, so it can give you like 0.66 or 0.72, something like that. And we'll times this by 7, so they'll always give us a number ranging from 0 to like 6.99999. And in order for us to never exceed 6, we will wrap this around the math.floor function, which takes the floating point number that we have generated from our inner arithmetic, and it will always take it to the lowest integer. So 6.99 will be floored down to 6, and something like 4.32 will be floored down to 4. So we will always be within the indexable range of the images array. So remember, we're only able to index our array from 0 to 6 because there are 7 elements in our array. So with with this line of code that we've had, we will always generate a random index between 0 to 6. So we'll need to make another one of these indexes. So we'll copy and paste this line and just name it random index 2. So the stuff that follows can be a little bit confusing, but I'll try to explain it slowly so that everyone understands. So we want to create another variable called image1 and image2 because we have two images on our website. So we'll declare it as var image1 and we'll have var image2. So image1 will be the image on the left hand side and then image2 will be the image on the right hand side. We want to assign this, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the entire image class image1 element within our HTML. So how this is done is by using the ID attribute of these two separate images that we have made. So we have ID image1 and ID image2. And we have two parameters which will pass in these two separate IDs to be able to change these two HTML elements. So what we need to do is you call the document.getElementById function. And because we have passed in two parameters, ID and ID2 will refer to image1 and image2 respectively when we pass it through. So we want to get the element of the first image. So how this will be done is we call this function using ID as the parameter, and then for the second image we will use document.getElementId as well, using the second ID, so ID2 as its pass parameter. So what this does is that it returns this entire HTML element for image1. So it will save this entire HTML element into the variable image1, and then for image2 it will save the second HTML image element. So now that we have these two elements stored within these two variables that we've created, we want to change the source attribute of these two elements, because this is where the web page gets the image from, essentially. So with this, we want to manipulate the source address. So with the first image, what we want to do is image1.source. So this refers to specifically the source attribute, and we want it to equal to the directory that our web page images are set to. So we know that is assets/images from all of our other from how we referenced our other images, like ./assets/images, and we'll put another slash here as well. And then afterwards, we want to access our images array using the random index that we've generated. So for example, if we generated 3 as our random index, so 0, 1, 2, 3, it will return the Spider-Man PNG. So how you access an element within an index is you write the name of the array, and to access the specific element in the array, you use square brackets. So because random index will generate a random number, we want that number to be accessed within the images array. So it'll be random index. And then similarly, we can do this for the second image as well. So image2.source using the same directory, and we want to use the second random index and indexing it from the same images array. So this will return to us two images that will change the appearance of the two photos that we have on our memes metro page. So to explain what these last 4 lines do, so images 1 and 2 are looking right into the image HTML elements that we have created. So it returns the entire element and stores it into the images variable. And oh, I have a wrong variable name here. So with these last 2 lines, we're looking at the stored HTML element, and we're specifically looking into the source attribute, and we're looking to change the directory at what photos it is pointing to. So we want the same directory because all of our images are stored in the same folder, but we just want to change the name of we only want to change the name so that it displays a different photo. So what this does is it uses the same directory and we concatenate the name, which is also a string. So how concatenation works is how, let's see, it takes two strings and it kind of just adds them on the ends of each other. So with this example, we have dot / assets, images, etc. So to show you what this does, we have this string right here, and let's say we randomly index the Spider-Man, so the Spider-Man.png, so we indexed random indexed 3. So how the concatenation works is that it will have access this in the array, and we will plus it onto the end of this directory that we have. So the ending result of this entire string will be let me just will be dot assets, images, and Spider-Man PNG is on the end. So as you can see, this looks awfully similar to the source location directories that we initially had for HTML. So these will then be placed into the source, which is what changes the images later onwards. So I hope that everyone understands. So now that we've made this function, we're still not done yet. We kind of need to call the function from within the buttons that we made. So what we need to do here is all HTML elements have an attribute called OnClick, and it kind of determines what it does after, well, the element has been clicked. So we will define what it does, what the behavior of the onClick is. So the attribute onClick equals to, we want to call the function, we want to call the randomize function that we just painstakingly made. So randomize image, that's our function name, and we have two parameters, ID and ID2. So we want to change the two images that we have on our memes metro page. So this is image 1 and image 2. And our ID for these two images is conveniently image 1 and image 2. So for us to set the parameters for the randomize function, we'll need to use single quotes, and the ID that we'll pass in for just ID itself would be image 1. And the second ID that we want to pass in for ID2 or randomize image will be also in single quotes and will be image 2. We will close the bracket and then close the quotations. Make sure you don't have one too many quotations or that will be very nasty. So we can then save the page. We will refresh our memes metro page and press the randomize button. So now when we press the randomize button, it will change the source location for all of the images and where it's pointing to give us random images from our bank of 7. You can add more, or you can put in different images to make it a different page, of course. And now I'll pass it on to Alex to implement the functionality for the toggle theme button, which changes it into dark mode, because everyone likes dark mode. Look at this white website. My eyes are a little bit burning right now.
Yeah, cheers, Jason, for doing your nice little JavaScript intro video. So we are going to implement a dark theme toggle button to activate the theme on and off. Jason over there is getting too excited. He was too ahead of himself. He already had a toggle theme button over there underneath the header, but we are not quite there yet. So this is what we are going to do now. So to add the button, let's find where about the header is. Okay, so it's right here. So let's add the button right underneath, and let's give it a toggle theme name. And let's see whereabouts it is. Okay, so right now what we want to do is we want to adjust the button such that it's on the center of the page. So in other words, we want to center this button horizontally. If you are going to do a test aligned style, if you're going to apply that to this button, it actually wouldn't work, because as we have discussed before, text align is actually specific to a text element, such as your P's, your H's, and stuff. And that doesn't work as expected, but a dirty trick that you can do to align that is to embed the button inside a paragraph element, and then you give it a text align center attribute, which we've already predefined as a class, which is called center text. And this will nicely adjust the button in the middle. So that's done. Now we just need to add the JavaScript and a bit of styling into it. So what we want to do now is to find the dark theme color that you like. So personally, I'm gonna use this not quite black color from Discord. It's looking pretty nice here. And apply that onto our page and see what we got. So it's right. So everything is black, but we want our text to be white. So let's just apply a color white to our text. Okay, so you can see that our navigation link is black over here. Let's try to examine why that is. Let's try to find the navigation link. Okay, I think the problem is because we have hard-coded the color to black for our navigation link. So, if we untick that, it will have the default color of the A tag, which is, I think it's purple at the moment. So instead of doing just hard-coded it, give it a hard-coded color, we can say we will apply inherit to it. So that just means whatever the color of your parent element is, this element will have the same color. So to demonstrate that, so a nav bar is the parent element. If I set the color of this nav bar to say red, everything inside that nav bar will be red, because by default, all of your text elements, such as paragraph, H1s, and all that, they all have a default style of color inherit applied to them. That's why if you set any of the, if you set the parent element, the first level of parent element will decide what the color of your children will be. By first level, I mean the first parent element that you encounter. So for example, these A tags have a parent of nav, but this nav has a parent of header, and the header has a parent of body. Although we've explicitly set the color of our body to white, because the first level of parent for this navigation link is nav, it's gonna inherit the color from its first level parent, which is nav. That's why it's not white. Right, so we've decided let's add that back into our code. So we want our nav link to inherit itself to inherit its color from its parent, and we want to define the dark theme color, which we nicely copy and pasted, and let's change that. Let's refresh that. So right now what we have to do is just to add the JavaScript back in there. So inside your head, you will define a script tag which I believe Jason has already demonstrated. Then you write your function there. Let's just call it function toggle dark thing. Well, the reason this is not highlighted is because I've spelled it wrong here. It's script, not whatever I spelled. Okay, so toggle dark thing. So what we want to do is every time you toggle this button, we want to apply the dark thing class to the body so that its background color will be changed to black and the text color inside it will be white. So this is what we call DOM manipulation. And Mozilla has a great documentation on how to manipulate DOM. But here we will use this function called document and find the body. So document just means that's the whole of your web page, and body is just .body just means I'm trying to access the body tag of this web page, and I want to do toggle attribute, or is it? Oh no, I actually want to access to its class list first, and then toggle. So whatever I apply, whatever the string name that I apply to it, every time I click the button. So if I was going to apply, give a on every element in HTML has a OnClick attribute. Then if I've applied that function to this button, then every time, so I'm saying every time I click on this button, let's just give, if this body has a dark thing, then you just strip it away. If it doesn't have a dark thing, then activate it. So that's what toggle means. And let's see if it works as expected. So righto, it works. So I think this is the end of our intro to web development video. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And I hope to see you guys next time. Feel free to hit us up for any questions that you have. Peace.